Hello, Matthew Bell here again, and today I am going to walk you through a couple of sample IRA distribution request forms. So again, if this is going to be relevant in a number of different situations. It might be relevant if you are 59 and a half or over 59 and a half and you just want to take a distribution from your retirement account. It's going to be relevant if you are 70 and a half or over and you have to start taking out required minimum distributions or RMDs. And by the way, I have a separate video on what the required minimum distribution or RMD, what that involves, what it is. Then I have a second video on how the 3 steps as to how to take a required minimum distribution. And thirdly, you might take distributions for, let's call it, any of a number of other reasons. If you're younger than 59 and a half and you need an emergency distribution, there are certain exceptions that allow for that. This video really won't go into that kind of detail. I may get into that in a future video. But what I'm really going to aim to do here is just show you. I just Googled IRA distribution request form and some of the top hits. I'm just going to display them on my screen and kind of walk you through them. Okay, so without further ado, I'll just go to my screen share.
Googling the phrase distribution request form or IRA distribution request form, I just pulled up 2 samples and I thought that I would just talk through them really quickly. There's any number of reasons why a person might request a distribution. If you have just watched the required minimum distribution video, then you will be filling out one of these forms for the required minimum distribution that you have to satisfy. But you might just take a distribution for any number of reasons. Once you're over 59 and a half, you're free to take distributions from your account, and you might do so to subsidize your retirement or fund it entirely, perhaps. You might also take it in order to transfer funds into a different vehicle, manually as it were, any number of reasons. But right here we're looking at the Franklin Templeton IRA distribution request form, and you can see here the first and again, I don't have any affiliation with any of these institutions. I just literally Googled it and thought we would talk through what we're looking at here. So first box, obviously you would want, if you're filling one of these particularly out, you would have to have an account with Franklin Templeton, some kind of an annuity or whatever. But your institution is going to vary, but your form is likely to have most of the same types of boxes in it. So first one, account owner information, pretty straightforward. Your name, date of birth, email address, contact information, and so on. And then you see your box for your Social Security number. Scrolling down, what kind of account is it? Is it a traditional IRA? Is it a SEP IRA, a Roth, a simple, a SAR-SEP, whatever? Okay. And then there's additional boxes, whether or not, you can read here if you have participated in the Roth plan for at least 5 years. These are your declarations, which are going to be pertinent to whether or not your distribution is going to be qualified or not. So here you see type of distribution, and then you can see the various different choices, age 59 or older, and that would of course include the required minimum distribution as it says, because that would be required of you at the age of 70 and a half. Under the age of 59, that's where you have to watch out, because the penalty of 10% on the traditional IRA does potentially apply if you don't qualify for any of the exceptions. But some exceptions include, as is specified here, permanent disability and so on. And then there's various qualified charitable distributions that you can use in order to try to reduce your required minimum distribution requirement. You can see the next page, includes some specific information for the account number. You can specify periodic distributions, so withdrawals that are going to be, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, annually, and so on, or whether or not it's just going to be a one-time payment. You would check this box right here if it is a required minimum distribution. There is a particularly complex way of pipelining money out of a qualified account, and sometimes it's referred to as a 72T plan, and here you can see a box specifically designed for that. That one is beyond the scope of what we'll discuss here, but that is an option. You'd want to consult with your tax preparer for information on that. The next is where you specify where they're going to send the distribution to. So they're going to send the distribution to a particular bank account of your choosing. And here's where you would authorize that withdrawal. You can see additional payment options here, direct transfer, rollover options, and so on. Now this one is where you would select mandatory or elective withholding. If you would like the trustee or custodian to withhold the amount of taxes, then you would select this box here. So bear in mind that with an IRA, you are usually in the position of having funded it with tax deductible contributions, which means that you didn't pay tax on the money when it went in, and then it grew tax deferred. So generally speaking, the IRA is 100% susceptible to taxation. There are exceptions. There is, the potential that you have an IRA funded with non-deductible contributions, but in the case of having funded it with deductible contributions and having had it grow tax deferred, you would be susceptible to tax. So if they send you a distribution, whatever trustee or custodial company, if they send you a distribution and you don't have it withheld the tax, then you would be responsible for making sure that you pay that tax ultimately. So having it withheld, just sort of out of sight, out of mind, they would automatically remove a certain percentage, and that would be reported on your 1099-R. So that's how this kind of thing gets kept track of. So how much money you receive, what if anything was withheld, all of that would be disclosed on a 1099-R, and that would be after this is received. You can see here if you are younger than 59 and a half and are trying to apply for an exception to get access to the money without a penalty, then you can see you would need to provide various certifications of permanent and total disability, physician statements, and the like of this. And then finally, you can see how you would sign it at the end. And then generally, you'll find the detailed instructions towards the back. Now, in addition to that, you can see this one from TD Ameritrade. I'm not going to go through the whole thing again. It's just a Google search that brought these up. You can see your account number, information, social. Here again, the same kinds of options for your required minimum distribution or RMD, normal distribution, after 59 and a half, premature, under 59 and a half, and then they warn you that you may be susceptible to a penalty. If it's a beneficiary IRA, there are special rules for that. Coming down, you see different sections for various kinds of rollovers. They specify that this is not the correct place, for direct transfer. You can see again frequency, so you can have a one-time payment, or you can have it distributed in annual, monthly, quarterly, semi-annual installments. They have various distribution methods. Of course, they're offering to internally transfer your money into another account held by TD Ameritrade. In this case, they can send you a check. Here's the address. They can send you a wire. They can send you an ACH transfer. That is the automated clearinghouse network, sort of an electronic funds transfer that's got a little bit more security around it. And then, once again, your election of withholding for tax or not. Now, in some cases, you're going to have to withhold. Certain states require it, and all of that is explained here. So remember, the election is not whether you want to pay tax or not, but it is simply whether you want the trustee or custodial company to take that tax money out before they send you a check or payment. And then, again, your account signature at the back. So I'm not a tax advisor or a financial advisor, so I cannot give you specific financial or tax-related advice. You are advised to contact an accountant and or a tax preparer if you have any additional questions about your specific tax situation. But this, in general, is just kind of walking you through the options. And again, for a person who's going to have to take their required minimum distribution, you're going to have to fill something like this out. every year, even if you haven't taken any money out up to that point. At the age of 70 and a half, you're going to have to take that out. I would encourage you to watch the dedicated video I have on explaining what an RMD is. So I go into what a required minimum distribution is, and then I have a separate video on the three-piece sequence that is usually initiated around the having of taking of a required minimum distribution. So you'll find first in January of whatever year it is, you're going to get a Form 5498 from the trustee or custodian who has your account. Then that form will disclose what your required minimum distribution amount is and when you have to take it. Then you would initiate a transfer or a distribution, rather. You would, in other words, request the withdrawal on a form similar to this. And then thirdly, you would receive a 1099-R that summarizes the amount you've been given and any amount that has been withheld. And then you would bring that form to your tax preparer. So I hope this brief overview has been a little bit of help to you. Each of these forms is somewhat forbidding in the sense of the length of it sometimes and all of the little boxes and options, but if you just kind of read through them, they sort of becomes a little bit intuitive. But in addition to that, most of these companies are going to have numbers where you can call, and you can see here if you have questions. TD Ameritrade, presumably Franklin will have something similar, whether it's on the form or not. Perhaps it's on the bottom, but most of these places are going to give you the option to talk through any questions that you might have with a representative. And frankly, if they don't have that, or if it's difficult to find, here's the number here on the bottom. If you have questions about how to fill the form out, most of these institutions are going to have the ability for you to call and talk to a representative, and many of you might already have somebody that you speak with. So running through that, if you found something of useful, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and check back for additional content. And once again, I have many videos up and in the works, so we hope that you check back in with us, and I appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.